The private dining room glowed amber under crystal chandeliers. Marcus Kane leaned back in his chair, swirling bourbon in cut glass. His colleagues laughed at his joke, something crude about quarterly earnings. The mahogany table stretched between them like a stage. Eleanor sat at the far end, silent, composed. Her emerald green dress caught the light when she shifted. She hadn't spoken in 20 minutes. Marcus's voice rose with alcohol and arrogance. Another deal closed. That's what separates winners from passengers. His eyes found Elena. Something cold flickered across his face. He stood slowly. His colleagues quieted. Marcus walked toward his wife, each step deliberate. The room held its breath. He stopped inches from her chair. Elena looked up. Her expression remained perfectly neutral. Years of practice had taught her that skill. Marcus sneered. "You just sit there, don't you?" "Useless, decorative." His business partner shifted uncomfortably. Someone coughed. Then Marcus leaned forward and spat directly into Elena's face. The liquid hit her cheek and dripped down her jaw. A wine glass shattered somewhere. Chairs scraped against hardwood. The room froze in collective shock. Elena didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't wipe her face. She simply stared at her husband with eyes that revealed nothing. Marcus laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. "That's what I think of passengers." The restaurant manager appeared in the doorway, face pale. He'd seen everything. Elena's fingers tightened around her napkin. The embroidered logo pressed against her palm, a logo she'd designed 7 years ago. 6 months earlier, Elena's mornings began at 5. She'd slipped from bed while Marcus snored, his face peaceful in sleep. The man she'd married still existed somewhere beneath the arrogance. She wanted to believe that. Her study door locked from the inside. 3 monitors glowed with spreadsheets, profit margins, expansion proposals. Reyes Hospitality Group had 23 locations across 5 states. Revenue exceeded $40 million annually. Eleanor had built it from her father's single failing diner. By 7, she'd return to the bedroom. Marcus would wake to pressed suits and hot coffee. He never asked about her early mornings. "Just yoga and emails to friends," she'd say. He'd nod absently, already checking his phone. Marcus worked in corporate finance, a prestigious firm with mahogany offices and expensive art. He told colleagues his wife stayed home. Said it with faint embarrassment, as though she were a relic from another era. Elena attended his company events in designer dresses he assumed were gifts from her mother. She smiled through conversations where men asked what she did all day. She'd perfected the art of appearing decorative while memorizing every business detail discussed. At night, Marcus would recount his victories, close the Morrison account, $3 million in assets. Elena would congratulate him, pour his whiskey, listen to him explain finance concepts she understood better than he did. She never corrected him. Never mentioned that the Morrison account was funded through one of her shell investments. Never revealed that she'd been bankrolling his firm's biggest deals for 2 years. This was her experiment, her test. She'd given Marcus success without his knowledge to see what kind of man he'd become. The answer had been revealing itself slowly. Each condescending comment, each time he spoke over her at dinners, each casual cruelty delivered with a smile. Elena's father had taught her that character reveals itself when people think they have power. Marcus thought he had all of it. Tonight would prove whether any of the man she'd married remained. The spit slid down Elena's face in slow motion. Marcus returned to his seat, laughing. His colleagues sat frozen, torn between loyalty to their associate and horror at what they'd witnessed. "You all know how it is," Marcus said, gesturing with his glass. "Sometimes you marry a woman for her looks. Then you're stuck with someone who contributes nothing." He took a long drink. "Eleanor doesn't work, doesn't cook, doesn't even manage the house properly." His business partner, David, cleared his throat. "Marcus, maybe we should..." "Should what? Pretend my wife has value?" Marcus's voice sharpened. "She's lucky I provide everything. The house, the car, the lifestyle. Without me, she'd be nothing. Elena slowly lifted her napkin. She wiped her face with deliberate precision. The cloth came away damp. The restaurant's logo, an elegant interlocking R and H, stared back at her. She'd sketched that design on a coffee-stained napkin during her father's final hospital stay. He'd squeezed her hand and whispered, "Build something beautiful. But never let anyone make you small." Elena stood. The chair scraped quietly against hardwood. Every eye turned toward her. Marcus's expression flickered with something, irritation, maybe anxiety. "Where are you going?" "The restroom." Her voice was steady, calm. It cut through the room's tension like a blade. Marcus grabbed her wrist as she passed. His fingers dug into her skin hard enough to leave marks. "Sit down." "You're embarrassing me in front of my colleagues." Eleanor looked at his hand, then at his face. She didn't pull away. "Didn't struggle. Let go, Marcus." Something in her tone made him release her. Elena walked toward the hallway, her heels clicking against marble. She could feel their stares following her. Behind her, Marcus's voice rose again. "See what I deal with?" "No respect. No gratitude." David's voice dropped low, urgent. "Marcus, you know who she is, right?" "My wife. Why?" The question hung in the air as Eleanor disappeared around the corner. The restroom was empty. Elena locked herself in the furthest stall and finally let her hands shake. She pressed them against the cold metal door until the trembling stopped. 7 years. She'd given him 7 years to prove himself. She'd fallen in love with a man who seemed humble, ambitious in healthy ways, genuinely kind. That Marcus had vanished piece by piece with each professional success. Elena pulled out her phone. Her reflection stared back from the black screen before it illuminated. 42 years old, CEO of a restaurant empire, owner of properties across 5 states, and she'd just been spat on like garbage. Her father's voice echoed in memory. "Respect isn't negotiable, Mija. Not in business, not in love." The moment someone shows you they see you as less than human, believe them. She'd wanted to be wrong about Marcus. Had given him chance after chance to see her. Really see her. Not the silent wife who poured his drinks and attended his parties, but the woman who'd turned her father's dream into an empire. She'd stayed anonymous intentionally. Used her maiden name for business. Kept separate accounts. Told Marcus nothing. It was a test. Could he love her without knowing her worth in dollars? Tonight answered that question definitively. Elena pulled up her attorney's contact. Her finger hovered over the call button. This would end her marriage, shatter the illusion she'd maintained, destroy whatever remained of the man she'd loved. She pressed dial. "Execute the plan," she said when he answered. "Tonight. I'm done waiting." 13 years ago, Eleanor had inherited a struggling diner in a forgotten neighborhood. Her father had died suddenly, leaving her with debts and a lease about to expire. She'd been 29, working as a sous chef, living in a studio apartment. Everyone told her to sell. Cut her losses, move on. Instead, Eleanor mortgaged everything she owned and rebuilt the place from scratch. She changed the menu, redesigned the space, trained staff with her father's philosophy. Make people feel seen. Within 2 years, she'd expanded to 3 locations. Within 5, she had 12. Investors approached her. She refused them all, maintaining complete control. Reyes Hospitality Group became known for elegant atmospheres and impeccable service. Restaurants where people celebrated life's important moments. She'd met Marcus at a charity gala. He'd been charming that night, genuinely interested in her work. He'd asked real questions about restaurant management, listened without interrupting, laughed at her. Their courtship had been careful. Elena had been burned before by men who wanted access to her money. She'd watched Marcus closely. He'd seemed different, ambitious but not greedy, confident but not arrogant. She'd married him believing she'd found a partner. The change had been gradual. First came the subtle corrections when she spoke about business, then the suggestions that she didn't need to work so hard. Then the comments about other wives who focused on home. Eleanor had pulled back from mentioning her company. Marcus's firm had been struggling. She'd quietly arranged investments through shell corporations to keep them afloat. Told herself she was supporting her husband's dreams, but each success she handed him fed something dark. Marcus began treating her like an accessory, something decorative to display at events, then ignore at home. Her father's words haunted her. Some people can't handle being given things. Makes them think they earn superiority. Tonight proved Marcus was exactly that type of person. Elena returned to the dining room. Her face was clean, composure restored. She slid back into her chair without a word. Marcus was mid-sentence, explaining market dynamics to two junior colleagues. Women don't understand numbers. It's biological. They're wired for emotions, not logic. He gestured dismissively. My wife can barely balance a checkbook. David, his business partner, had his phone out. He kept glancing at Elena with an expression caught between horror and disbelief. The restaurant manager approached the table, Antonio, who'd worked with Elena for 6 years. He leaned close to David and whispered something. David's face drained of color. He looked at Elena, then at Marcus, then back at Elena. His mouth opened and closed silently. David stood abruptly, his chair scraping. Marcus, we need to talk outside right now. Marcus waved him off without looking up. We're in the middle of dinner, David. Whatever it is can wait. No, it really can't. Something in David's tone penetrated Marcus's alcohol haze. He frowned. What's wrong with you? David leaned down and whispered 8 words that made Marcus's expression freeze. That's Elena Reyes. She owns this entire chain. Marcus's fork clattered against his plate. He laughed, a nervous, disbelieving sound. What? No, you're confused. Antonio stepped forward. Mr. Kane, Mrs. Kane owns Reyes Hospitality Group, this restaurant and 22 others. His voice was respectful but firm. She founded the company 13 years ago. Marcus turned to Eleanor. This is a joke, right? Some kind of misunderstanding. Elena met his eyes. Her voice was quiet, deadly calm. Check the deed, Marcus. Check the LLC registered to my maiden name. Reyes Hospitality Group, founded 2012. Current valuation, approximately $63 million. David was scrolling frantically on his phone. He turned the screen toward Marcus. There it was. Corporate filings, property deeds, business licenses, all bearing Elena's maiden name and signature. Marcus stared at the screen. His hand trembled slightly as he took the phone. He scrolled through documents, his face cycling through disbelief, confusion, and slowly dawning horror. You own this? This and 22 other locations across 5 states. Eleanor's tone never wavered. I also own the building your firm leases office space in. And I'm the primary anonymous investor behind your last 3 major acquisitions. The table fell into absolute silence. Marcus's mouth worked soundlessly. Finally, why didn't you tell me? Elena stood slowly. She smoothed her emerald dress and picked up her clutch. When she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 7 years of silence. I wanted to see who you'd become when you thought you had all the power. Now I know exactly who you are. Marcus's laugh came out strangled. This is ridiculous. Eleanor stopped playing games. He looked around the table desperately. She's joking. My wife doesn't run a business empire. David held up his phone. Marcus, I'm looking at tax filings, board registrations. She's listed as founder and CEO. This isn't a joke. Elena remained standing. Her voice cut through Marcus's denial like ice. I registered the business under my maiden name, maintained separate corporate accounts. You never asked what I did in the mornings. You assumed I was worthless. Marcus reached for her hand. She stepped back. His voice cracked with something between anger and panic. Why would you hide this from me? I didn't hide it. You never looked. Elena's eyes held no warmth. Every time I tried to discuss business, you talked over me. Every accomplishment I mentioned, you dismissed. You made it clear my only value was as decoration. one of the junior colleagues whispered to the other. They were already typing on their phones. This story would spread through Marcus's firm by morning. Marcus stood, trying to regain control. "Elena, let's discuss this at home, privately." He forced a smile toward his colleagues. "Marital misunderstanding." "We'll sort it out." David's voice was quiet. "Marcus, the anonymous trust that funded our last 3 deals. The one that kept us afloat during the merger crisis." He paused. "That was her, wasn't it?" Helena nodded once. Marcus's face went white. "No, the trust came through the Cayman account. I verified the—" He stopped mid-sentence. Understanding crashed over him like a wave. "Shell Corporation," Elena said simply. "Registered through my attorney. I've been funding your success for 2 years. Every promotion you celebrated, every deal you closed, built on my capital." Marcus grabbed her wrist again, harder this time. "You can't just—" Antonio appeared with 2 security guards. "Mr. Kane, please release Mrs. Kane." Marcus released Elena's wrist but moved to block her path. His voice dropped to something meant to sound tender, but came out desperate. "Elena, please. Let's talk about this. We're married, partners. Partners don't spit on each other." Elena's voice could have frozen steel. "Partners don't mock their spouse in public. Partners don't call each other worthless." David stood, phone pressed to his ear. He stepped away from the table, speaking rapidly to someone. When he returned, his expression was grim. "Marcus, we need to leave now. I'm not going anywhere until—" "The firm's biggest investor." David's voice shook. "The anonymous trust that provided capital for our 3 largest acquisitions. The one that saved us during the liquidity crisis." He looked at Elena. "That was you." Elena inclined her head slightly. Marcus's swagger crumbled. His career, his reputation, his entire professional identity, all built on money from the wife he'd just humiliated. "I didn't know." "Elena, I swear I didn't—" "That's the problem, Marcus. You never wanted to know." Elena nodded to Antonio. "Please escort Mr. Kane from the premises. He's no longer welcome in any Reyes hospitality property." The security guards moved forward. Marcus's voice rose in panic. "Elena, wait! You can't do this. I'm your husband, not for much longer." She turned to David. "I'll be contacting the firm's senior partners tomorrow. Mr. Kane's conduct tonight violated the ethics clause in our investment agreement. I'm withdrawing my capital effective immediately." David's face went ashen. Without that funding, the firm would face serious difficulties. Marcus tried to lunge forward. The guards caught his arms. "Elena, please." "I can change. I'll do better." Elena finally showed emotion, not anger but profound sadness. "You had 3 years to do better. You chose cruelty instead." She looked at the guards. "Take him out." Marcus's shout echoed through the restaurant as they escorted him toward the exit. "This isn't over. You can't destroy me like this." "Elena!" The dining room door closed. Silence settled like dust. Elena turned to the remaining guests. "Dinner is complimentary tonight. I apologize for the disturbance." Her voice was perfectly composed. "Antonio will ensure you're taken care of." She walked out the opposite door, leaving a table full of witnesses who would never forget what they'd seen. Marcus sat in his car outside the restaurant, hands gripping the steering wheel. His phone buzzed continuously, texts from colleagues who'd been at dinner, screenshots already circulating through group chats. He tried calling Elena. The call went straight to voicemail. He tried again. Same result, blocked. He drove to their house, his house, he'd always thought. The gate wouldn't open. His access code had been changed. Marcus pressed the intercom. His phone lit up with a message from David. "Senior partners called emergency meeting. Tomorrow 9 a.m., don't be late." Marcus stared at the dark windows of the house. Every light was off. Eleanor wasn't there, or she was pretending not to be. He'd lived in this house for 5 years, believed he'd bought it with his year-end bonus and careful savings. Now he wondered what else had been a lie. The car felt suffocating. Marcus drove aimlessly through the city. Past the building where his firm had their offices. Elena owned that too, apparently. Past restaurants bearing the Reyes Hospitality logo. He'd never noticed how many there were. He ended up in a hotel parking lot, the cheapest place he could find. The room smelled like disinfectant and defeat. Marcus sat on the edge of the bed, finally allowing himself to process. Every promotion he'd celebrated, had Elena arranged those? Every client he'd impressed, had they been steered to him? Every success he'd built his identity around, had any of it been real? The mirror across from the bed reflected a stranger. A man who'd spat on his wife, called her worthless, mocked her in front of witnesses. His phone buzzed again. A video link from a number he didn't recognize. Someone had recorded the restaurant incident. The footage was already going viral. Comments poured in beneath it, each one more damning than the last. Marcus turned off his phone and lay back on the scratchy hotel comforter. For the first time in years he had nothing. No wife, no home. Possibly no career, and he'd done it all to himself. Morning came too quickly. Marcus showered in the tiny hotel bathroom and put on yesterday's wrinkled suit. His reflection looked hollow. The firm's office felt different. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Whispers stopped when he passed. Someone had printed stills from the viral video and left them on his desk, anonymous cruelty. David met him at the conference room. Senior partners are already inside. Marcus, I'm going to be honest, this looks bad. The meeting lasted 17 minutes. 3 senior partners sat across from Marcus, with expressions carved from stone. They had documents spread before them. Mr. Kane, we've reviewed our investment portfolio. The managing partner's voice held no warmth. The trust that funded the Morrison deal, the Chen acquisition and the Riverside merger, all trace back to shell corporations owned by your wife. Ex-wife, Marcus muttered. Soon. That makes this worse, not better. Another partner leaned forward. You publicly humiliated our primary investor. The video has 2 million views. Our clients are asking questions. Mrs. Kane's attorney contacted us at 6 this morning. She's withdrawing all invested capital. Marcus's stomach dropped. How much? $12 million, across multiple deals, some still in progress. The managing partner closed his folder. Mr. Kane, you're suspended pending ethics investigation. Company policy is clear. Investor relationships are sacrosanct. You violated that principle spectacularly. I didn't know she was... That's not a defense. It's an admission of negligence. You didn't know your own wife's professional identity. That raises serious questions about your judgment. They dismissed him without severance details. Marcus cleaned out his desk while former colleagues watched from cubicles. His phone buzzed. Helena's attorney requesting meeting times for divorce proceedings. Asset division. Custody of properties Marcus had believed were jointly owned. He drove to Elena's office building, a glass tower downtown he'd passed 1,000 times without knowing she owned it. The receptionist recognized him immediately. Her expression mixed pity and contempt. Mrs. Kane doesn't have any appointments available. Tell her I'm not leaving until she sees me. The receptionist made a call, waited, then nodded toward the elevator. 20th floor. She'll give you 10 minutes. Elena's office occupied the entire 20th floor corner. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Awards lined the walls, business recognitions Marcus had never known existed. Photos showed Elena with governors, celebrity chefs, industry leaders. She sat behind a mahogany desk that probably cost more than Marcus's car. Her emerald dress had been replaced by a charcoal suit. She looked like what she was, a woman who'd built an empire. Marcus stopped in the doorway. I didn't know. Come in. Close the door. Eleanor's voice was businesslike, professional, nothing like the wife who'd poured his whiskey and listened to his stories. He sat across from her. The desk felt like a canyon between them. I came to apologize. What I did was... Marcus couldn't find words adequate to the moment. Elena raised one hand. Silence fell. You spat on me, Marcus. In front of witnesses. You called me worthless, lazy, a burden. You mocked everything about me while benefiting from everything I built. I know. God, Elena, I know. I was drunk and stupid, and you've been drunk and stupid for 3 years. Last night was just the culmination. She slid a folder across the desk. Divorce papers. My attorney drafted them this morning. Marcus opened the folder with shaking hands. The first page itemized assets. The house, Elena's name. The investment accounts, Elena's name. The car he'd believed he'd earned, purchased through Elena's LLC. What about the things I actually earned? You'll keep your salary and the small retirement account you had before we married. Everything else was acquired through my business holdings or funded by my investments. Elena's expression didn't change. That's approximately $63,000, Marcus. Everything you truly earned independently. That's nothing. I've lived on less. I built everything you see, from a failing diner and a mountain of debt. Elena leaned forward. You didn't fall in love with me, Marcus. You fell in love with what you thought you'd built alone. With the ego boost of having a beautiful wife who asked for nothing. You loved your reflection, not the woman holding the mirror. Marcus's voice cracked. I can change, I swear. Give me another chance. I gave you 3 years of chances. I watched you grow crueler with each success I handed you. I watched you dismiss me, talk over me, treat me like decoration. I stayed silent to see if you'd ever look deeper. You never did. Her attorney entered, a sharp-eyed woman in navy blue. Mrs. Kane, we have the additional documents you requested. Eleanor nodded. The attorney placed another folder on the desk. Mr. Kane, you'll notice that Mrs. Kane is entitled to repayment of the investments she made in your firm's deals. However, she's chosen to waive that claim in exchange for a clean break. Marcus stared at the numbers. She could have bankrupted him, pursued legal claims that would have destroyed what little remained of his career. Instead, she was letting him walk away with his small retirement intact. Why? His voice was barely a whisper. Elena finally showed emotion. Not anger, but deep, profound sadness. Because I don't want your money, Marcus. I never did. I wanted your respect, your partnership, your ability to see me as an equal. You couldn't provide any of that. So I'm letting you go. She stood, indicating the meeting was over. Sign the papers. Move forward. Learn to build something real on your own. And, Marcus, she looked at him with eyes that had once held love. Never spit on another human being again. It reveals exactly who you are. 3 months passed like a held breath releasing. The divorce finalized quietly. Marcus moved across the country to Seattle, a lateral position at a smaller firm starting over at 45. Elena stood in her newest restaurant location on opening night. The space glowed with warmth her father would have recognized. Exposed brick walls, soft amber lighting, tables where families and couples celebrated life's moments. She wore her mother's pearl necklace, the one Marcus had called old-fashioned and outdated. It felt right against her skin now, authentic, hers. Antonio approached with a tablet showing reservation numbers. We're booked solid for the next 3 months. The press coverage from, he paused delicately, from my viral humiliation? Elena smiled. Say it. It's okay. The attention brought people in, but the food and atmosphere are keeping them here. Antonio. She watched couples toast over wine, families laughing over dessert, a young woman celebrating her graduation with proud parents. This was why she'd built the empire, not for money or recognition, but to create spaces where people felt valued. The video of Marcus spitting on her had 8 million views now. Strangers sent supportive messages daily. Women shared their own stories of being underestimated and dismissed. Helena had become an accidental symbol. She didn't want to be famous, but she'd found purpose in the attention. Started a foundation helping women entrepreneurs access capital. Used her platform to speak about financial independence and self-worth. Marcus had tried calling twice. She'd blocked him both times. His attorney sent a settlement offer. He wanted to give her money from his new salary, some gesture of penance. Elena had her attorney donate it to the Women's Entrepreneurship Fund. She didn't want his guilt payments. She'd stopped hating him somewhere around month 2. Now she just felt sorry for the man who couldn't recognize treasure when he held it, who'd built his identity on a foundation of borrowed success and unearned arrogance. Her phone buzzed. A photo from her sister. A newspaper article about Elena's newest community restaurant initiative. The headline read, "From Humiliation to Inspiration. How Elena Reyes Turned Viral Shame into Empowerment." Elena studied her reflection in the restaurant's window. She looked lighter somehow. Free. The woman staring back had survived her father's death, built an empire, endured a toxic marriage, and emerged stronger. She finally understood her father's final words. Build something beautiful, but never let anyone make you small. She'd done exactly that. Elena's voice carried over the closing scene, soft but certain. My father taught me that true wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. It's measured in who you become when no one's watching. When no one knows your net worth or your achievements. Just you, alone with your character. The camera moved through the restaurant, past laughing families, first dates, anniversary celebrations, all of them held in spaces Elena created. I gave Marcus everything, except the truth about where his success came from. I wanted to know if he'd love me without the knowledge, if he'd respect me when he thought I had nothing. Her reflection appeared in the window glass. He showed me exactly who he was. That was the gift. Not the answer I wanted, but the answer I needed. Outside, the city lights painted gold across buildings. Inside, warmth and connection filled every corner. People asked why I stayed silent so long, why I let him belittle me, why I didn't tell him the truth sooner. Eleanor's voice grew stronger. Because revealing yourself to someone who won't see you is pointless. Real love doesn't require credentials. Real respect doesn't wait for proof of worth. The restaurant sign illuminated against the darkening sky. Reyes Hospitality, the logo Elena had designed in her father's hospital room. I learned that some people only see value when it's written on contracts. When it comes with titles and dollar amounts, those aren't your people. Let them go. The right ones will see you even when you're silent. Especially when you're silent. The camera pulled back slowly. Eleanor stood at the window, pearls gleaming at her throat. She wasn't broken, wasn't defeated. She was exactly what she'd always been. Powerful, capable, worthy. Respect isn't given because of what you own. It's given because of who you are. And if someone can't see that? Elena's final words echoed as the screen faded. They don't deserve to stand in your light. The Reyes logo glowed against black, then darkness, then nothing but the truth.